Welcome to the Ellevate podcast, conversations with women changing the face of business. And now your hosts, Kristy, Wallace, and Maricella, Herrera.
Hello and welcome to the Ellevate podcast. This is your host, Kristy Wallace, with my co-host, Maricella, Herrera. Maricella, hello.
Hello.
I remember when we first started taping the podcast remotely many months ago, 7 months ago at least, and thought it was just temporary. And now, many episodes later, I'm still just seeing you over the computer screen. But one day we will be back together.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. That's all I can say.
Well, at least we've been able to see each other in person a few times over the past couple months, so that's been great. And you know, as we think at Ellevate about the work we do around community and connections, I know it's difficult for many of us, many of our listeners who really value that in-person connection. Being in the office amongst your coworkers, being in a meeting with someone across the desk, or being at a networking event where you get to meet people in real life. And I encourage you to not give up on those practices, on building community, on connecting with others, and tapping into a lot of the great work that Ellevate and other organizations are doing to help facilitate those conversations, to help create opportunities for a depth of connection that I think we hadn't really appreciated or thought possible pre-COVID. But in the past couple months, it's been increasingly evident to me that we can build real and meaningful connections in this virtual space. And I'm really thankful to all of you who've been part of my network the past couple of months as we build lasting connections that will support us and lead us into the future. And Maricella, you are certainly one of those individuals I really appreciate connecting with virtually every day.
Me too. I was thinking as you were saying that, and you know, listeners can't see me, but I was nodding my head along. You really can build relationships, and you and I obviously known each other and worked together for years, so it's not like we're building a relationship or deepening much of our relationship during COVID, although I think it has deepened. But I do feel that the fact that these last few months there's been so much uncertainty and so much need to grasp on to other human connection has made it even almost easier in a way, because it's so much more needed. I don't know about you, but I feel like I've certainly grown close to some people, even if it's in a very different way that it would have been in, you know, be it not in a pandemic. And it's because I've said it before on the podcast, right? I live alone, my family's not here, and it's just that need for connection when the world can seem very daunting and when you might feel very isolated. So I think among the bad things, there's an aspect of humanity that has been nice to see emerge.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And it's interesting. So my guest today, Linda Fisk, is someone who, I guess, speaking of the virtual connections, she had just reached out to me on LinkedIn. We had a conversation. We had a call. Really got along. We're able to find so many synergies within our stories, shared passions, and impact that we are having on the world. And so I had the great pleasure of being on her new to be released podcast that's coming out, and she's our guest today. And with Linda, we really wanted to touch on the power of partnerships during this time, and even obviously before COVID hit, but especially during this time. It's about how do businesses lean on each other? What are the ways in which you form partnerships that are mutually beneficial, that lift both businesses up, that tap into each of your own secret sauce and expertise and help you be stronger? And we've heard so much about the impact of COVID on businesses, on the economy. And the more we can look to support one another as business leaders, as owners, as humans, the stronger we'll all be. So it was great to have a conversation with Linda today, delving into the power of partnerships and everything you need to know to get one going.
Can't wait to hear it.
Hello, Linda. It's so lovely to have you on the Ellevate podcast today. How are you doing?
Hi, Kristy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your podcast. I've been a big fan for a long time, and I'm so excited to connect with your audience.
Of course. And for our audience, a little background. Linda had reached out to me on LinkedIn, and we made a connection. We had a conversation. We really got along well. Linda's story and work is incredibly inspiring and important. But I wanted to preface that because I know so many of us are thinking about how we network and how we build partnerships during a time when in-person connections aren't really happening. And I just wanted to use this as an example to illustrate that you can reach out to someone online, make that connection, have that conversation, and then end up on a podcast. So all good stuff, right, Linda?
Yes, thank you, Kristy.
So let's get started learning a little bit more about you. Would you mind sharing, Linda, your story for our audience?
Sure. Currently, I serve as a co-founder for an organization called LeadHERship Global. And ultimately, I think I would describe myself as a leader who's dedicated to helping accelerate the success of strong, courageous, and fearless women. I believe that by helping others succeed, the reward will always be far greater than the investment. And that's really what I've built my entire career around. As the co-founder of LeadHERship Global, I'm excited to have the privilege of really enhancing the leadership blueprint of unstoppable women around the world and helping them embrace their power to be the very best versions of themselves in work and in life. And I think that that's really been the hallmark of my career, is that I want to be in support of inspirational, fearless, courageous leaders all around the world. I worked for YPO for a number of years, as well as Susan G. Komen and a number of other organizations where I had the privilege and honor of supporting the journey of other leaders and helping them clarify their purpose, their mission, and how they wanted to make an impact on the world. And I have found that to be the most thrilling, the most motivating kind of work that I could be involved in.
Thank you for that. Linda, would you mind sharing a story? I mean, YPO, Susan G. Komen, leading in those areas, and how have you supported women in their career journey?
I will tell you that working at Susan G. Komen was really life-changing for me because it's a community of women supporting other women through one of the most difficult and challenging times of their life, at the onset of a breast cancer diagnosis. And to see an organization that is 100% dedicated, determined to eradicate this horrible disease off the face of the planet, and the lengths of support that the Susan G. Komen organization will go through to support those that are facing a breast cancer diagnosis was absolutely stunning and completely inspirational. And I began several programs where we connected very personally with those that were suffering through a breast cancer diagnosis. We learned their stories. We broadcast their stories across a number of different platforms. We got to know them. We understood their journey, how it was affecting not only them, but the people in their lives that they loved and that loved them. We understood what it meant to be a co-survivor of someone who is unfortunately diagnosed with one of the most devastating diseases that can face a woman or a man, a diagnosis of breast cancer. So by learning the incredibly courageous, the incredibly strong, resilient stories of these women afflicted with this horrible diagnosis was life-changing for me. And that's really where I began to cultivate this idea of creating a global support system for women going through all kinds of trials in their life. And really, I began thinking about the unique experiences of women and how best to support them because of my time at running the global marketing initiative for Susan G. Kloman.
Thank you for sharing that and for the important work that you're doing, Linda. I think that area and that expertise around marketing and thinking about, not just the internal values and communication of a company, but then how do you project that externally, and how do you support all stakeholders and really understand that customer. It's an incredibly important role, but especially when you're in an organization that's so mission driven as that one, to really know that the work you're doing is having an impact. And I wanted to just say thank you and acknowledge that important work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kristy.
Linda, I'm excited to talk to you today about partnerships. And that could feel to many of our listeners like, oh, what's exciting about that? But I believe there's a lot that's exciting about the idea of how we partner with others. We partner with an individual, with others within our company, other departments. We partner with other companies. And I say that because given Linda's work and focus and mine, it's really about the power of community, the power of collaboration, the power of supporting one another, that rising tide lift all boats. And what are the ways in which we really create partnerships that last, that have the impact, that are sustainable and ongoing. And to be honest, I don't think many of us really understand how to do that well. It's hard to do well. You may go in thinking what's a good ROI for you, and that doesn't match the person on the other end, or maybe it's something that just takes too much work to get off the ground, and thus fails before it begins. And so being able to create a strong partnership not just helps you as an individual, but helps you in business and in life and beyond. So Linda, I know you have some really great experience in this area and insights. And I would love it if you could just kick us off, talk to me a little bit about how you see partnerships. What is that definition? What does that mean to you? And what are some of the values that come along with that?
Thank you, Kristy. I will tell you, I actually think this is an incredibly exciting topic because it's so relatable. No matter how you think about the relationships in your life, there are opportunities for partnership. There's incredible power in partnerships based on mutual respect formed by extending trust. And I think as you begin to develop a fundamental awareness of the key relationships in your life, you then have the opportunity to consider the possibilities of adopting new approaches to problem solving, pioneering approaches to cooperation, redesigning all the relationships in your life under this sort of worldview of partnerships. And I think true partnership is more than just collaboration. It's about moving to a relationship that involves co-creation, shared risks and responsibilities, interdependency, and organizational transformation. True partnership is about identifying shared value that you have with others in your life, and then leveraging the combined strengths of every partnership and every partner to achieve a level of impact that you couldn't accomplish on your own. There is a multiplier effect that often happens in incredibly powerful partnerships where each of the partners achieve a level of impact, a level of success, a level of influence that they could never have accomplished independently. So I think when you step into the power of partnerships, you can create a solid foundation for families, for businesses, for communities, and honestly, the world. I really think that there is an incredible unlocking of possibility when you begin thinking about the relationships in your life under the terms of partnerships founded on trust and founded on respect. it can foster a true explosion of creativity and really can transform your life. I will tell you that I certainly have experienced this personally and have a deep appreciation for the transformative power of partnerships. They can create a world that's absolutely more inclusive, that's more prosperous, that's more sustainable and resilient. And of course, it means that that partnership has to be founded on trust and respect in order to foster that multiplier effect, in order to create that transformational effect that I think everyone's looking for.
I incredibly appreciative of the framing around values because that is such a cornerstone to, like you said, relationships and families and business and partnerships. And so that is a great way to start this conversation. Linda, I know you've given a lot of thought to different types of partnerships, the different ways that they take shape. So, would you mind sharing what that looks like for you? You've mentioned 8 types or factors in a partnership. Can you go deeper on that for us?
Yeah, sure can. You know, Kristy, you mentioned values, and I will tell you that there are some core values that I think are universal in creating effective partnerships. And the first is respect. You have to acknowledge the value that every entity brings into the partnership, whether that's a person or an organization or a department or a division. The power of partnership is built on harnessing each partner's key strengths and having the core value of sort of understanding that strength and respecting it, I think is fundamental. And I think you also have to have a genuine commitment. You have to come to the partnership with good faith. You have to keep the focus on creating a partnership with a shared vision and, importantly, a shared definition of success. If what I want to create is wholly different from what my partner wants to create, how they deem success to look and feel, how they define success, then we are already at the very beginning of that partnership doomed. But if we have a very clear and open conversation, if we openly share information and maintain clear lines of communication around what that partnership's shared vision and shared definition of success should be, then I think that is one of the fundamental keys at the very beginning, at the very onset of a partnership. And I think inherent in that is this idea of transparency. And that would be my third core value is openly sharing key information with your partners, maintaining clear lines of communication, but most importantly, having really honest discussions around difficult issues. And for women, that can be really tough to walk into a conversation knowing that there may be conflict, there may be some controversy, there may be some disagreement. But I think if we move into that conversation with a really open heart and an honest disposition, and we recognize that there are some difficult issues that we're going to have to work through, but we're going to do it in good faith, I think that allows us to strengthen the relationship and build on that level of transparency moving forward. Next, I would say patience and persistence. You have to be patient to create space for partners to break through rather than breaking down through difficult times. And there are, listen, we're all very different people. We come from very different backgrounds and life experiences. And so you have to give a bit of grace to your partner, whether that's a person, a department, a division, or an organization. You have to give them a bit of grace and be patient and yet be persistent in allowing that partner to reach out to you during difficult times and to know that they will be supported and that they will be valued as you work through really difficult situations and difficult circumstances so that, again, you can have breakthroughs, not just breakdowns. And then lastly, I would say the fifth core value of an effective partnership is trust and familiarity. And although these are two incredibly important cornerstones, I will admit that, they're built up over time through 1,000 small acts every single day, you're creating trust and you're building familiarity. Those aren't qualities that people can extend immediately in the formation of a partnership, but they are cornerstones that can be built and solidified and fortified over time through 1,000 small acts of being able to be patient, persistent, transparent, and showing a genuine and authentic sense of respect for your partners.
Thanks so much for that, Linda. I'd love to get some more tangible examples in here. So, as we talked about partnership with another person or within an organization or company to company, what are some of those? I know there's so many variances and so many examples, but could you share some types or some examples that you've seen that have worked? So, kind of taking this foundation you've laid for us, and what does that look like in practice?
Yeah, really good question, Kristy. So again, my background is primarily in marketing. So I'm always a great student of co-branding partnerships that have done just wonders for the individual brands that have participated in that co-branding partnership. And I have a couple examples here that I just think were absolutely brilliant and perhaps unexpected. And one I think of is GoPro and Red Bull. So GoPro, as you know, is video capture equipment, and Red Bull is a lifestyle drink. It's basically an energy drink. And so you think perhaps, golly, what would those two brands have in common? One is all about video, and the other is all about it's a product dealing with energy drinks. So how do those two things come together? But what they found in common is that they both attracted an audience of people whose lifestyle was based on action-packed, adventurous, fearless, and extreme adventure. So both of their audiences were connected through this idea of living life to the extreme, being adventurous, being fearless, and doing really extreme stunts. And so those two organizations coming together did a brilliant marketing initiative, a marketing campaign where they showed the enthusiasts of Red Bull and GoPro drinking a Red Bull and then engaging in some sort of extreme activity, all being captured through GoPro. And it was just brilliant. And I think all of us that are fitness enthusiasts and perhaps runners know about the Nike and Apple partnership that was just so inspiring. With the popularity of fitness tracking technology, Nike Plus really took a leadership position and was well ahead of the curve by making it easy for athletes to track while they play. And that was all thanks to a partnership with Apple. Apple integrated tracking technology into all of Nike's clothing and also integrated a lot of their music devices into Nike equipment so that as you are exercising in Nike gear, you can also listen to music, track your performance, track your distance, and understand exactly how you are performing against other athletes that are bicyclists or runners or involved in any kind of activity. And that was just brilliant. Another one I think about is Casper and West Elm. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Casper mattresses, but they are, hitting incredible sales records, even during this time where retail outlets have been, hitting some very unique challenges. Casper mattresses sales have been growing exponentially. And one of the keys here is that Casper mattresses, they are not normally available in a mattress store. So the only way you can experience a Casper mattress is by going to a West Elm retailer. Shoppers can now try out this comfy mattress before purchasing through West Elm. And West Elm can now advertise its chic bedroom furniture because they are the only retailer that Casper has available in inventory. And I thought that was brilliant. Casper is normally only available through a online purchase, but by integrating their mattress in West Elm retailers, West Elm gets all that additional traffic, and Casper, the enthusiasts of Casper, can try it out before they purchase it now.
Thanks, Linda. And I wanted to also explore a bit more about the interdepartmental, or what a partnership looks like in a company. Because I know that that's something that many of our listeners are navigating, and I'm sure, Linda, leading a marketing department, that's something that you navigated as you're talking with you know finances and budgeting, or maybe legal, or there's a lot of partnerships that come into play internally in companies to ensure we're all meeting our goals, we're able to move forward. What were some of your experiences there, and do you have any learnings to share with our listeners?
Yes, absolutely. You're right. I think at some point in everyone's career, if you've worked in corporate America, you have dealt with partnerships with other departments or other divisions of a company, and some go incredibly well and some do not. And the learning that I've gained through the partnerships that have gone extraordinarily well and those that have missed or been a bit more disappointing are a couple things. One, you've got to set the roles, the responsibilities, and expectations at the very beginning, and then manage to those expectations throughout the duration of the partnership. So if you are aligned around certain definitions of success and certain key performance indicators, you've got to ensure throughout the life of that partnership that you are managing those success metrics, you're managing those expectations, and you are clarifying everything, every single step of the way, the roles and the responsibilities of the individual partners involved in the project. You also, if you're working in a corporate environment, need to develop a network of people who are committed to the partnership's success. So you've got to ensure that you have a stakeholder group that is broad and deep and that is essentially motivated to see that partnership succeed. This network of people will help clear obstacles, uncover roadblocks, and help you ensure that you have the resources necessary to ensure success. So, developing a network of people who are committed to that partnership success is key. And of course, if that network of people included senior level leaders, all the better. You need to make sure that you have champions in the senior leadership C-suite, as well as a network of other people within the departments who are committed to the success of that project and that interdepartmental partnership. And then lastly, I'd say that in all cases, you need to hold each other accountable. You need to ensure that you have not only aligned on the interests, the roles and responsibilities of the individual partners, but you need to hold each other accountable to ensure that you are executing and implementing, and you are ensuring that you're living up to the promises and commitments that you've made. And then, of course, there will be breakdowns. There always are. There's going to be challenges along the way. And rather than placing blame, it's important to learn from mistakes. Again, this harkens back to one of the most important core values in partnerships, which is being patient and persistent. You have to be patient to create a space for partners to break through, not break down during difficult times. So while you are holding each other accountable, you have to understand that, of course, there will be challenges. Of course, there will be obstacles, and you have to learn from any mistakes and recommit to the metrics of success and the definition of success that you aligned around at the beginning.
I love that. Thank you so much, Linda. I've learned so much during this conversation. I think it's a really important framing around values, expectation, structures, and how partnerships can take shape and be successful. I wanted to end with a little lightning round to learn more about you. That's always a great way to end our conversations. So I'm going to ask you some questions and ask that you answer in one sentence or less.
Okay.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert.
What's your favorite day of the week?
Sunday.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Who is your dream dinner guest?
Mother Teresa.
Ooh, I love that. Do you have a pet peeve?
Being late.
Yeah, that's mine too, actually. I think my mom was always late, and so, what's your Monday morning staple? So must-have food or activity?
Coffee. And specifically Starbucks coffee. Sorry for all the other fans of other coffee brands, but I'm addicted to my Starbucks every Monday morning.
What is your favorite recent read?
I just read, I am a big fan of everything Malcolm Gladwell has ever written. I think he's one of the most brilliant minds in our modern times. He's just remarkable. But I just read a recent novel of his, and I just think he's just brilliant, the way that he's able to integrate philosophy with science, with sociology, with philosophy, with religion, with economics, the way that he's able to pull from 1,000 different sources to create an entirely new way of thinking about a concept is just brilliant. And I would recommend all of his novels, everything from The Tipping Point to From the Dog's Point of View. I mean, all of his novels are just remarkable.
What is your top self-care practice?
8 hours of sleep every single night, no matter what.
Impressive, very impressive. And Linda, to end our conversation, is there a final thought or a question you want to leave with our listeners today?
I really want to thank you, Kristy. I think you and the Ellevate Network is such an important entity, and you are such a dynamic leader. I am so impressed with you, what you've been able to accomplish, what you've been able to do within the Ellevate Network. But I also am just such a big fan of what the Ellevate Network's mission and purpose is, and the way you activate women around the world, how you support them and you nurture them and you facilitate conversations and relationships that otherwise perhaps would never have happened. And it's just remarkable to see how you are creating such incredible change in not just the lives of women, but in communities, in nations, and around the world. It's honestly just humbling to be on this podcast and to be able to talk to you, because in my mind, you really are one of my heroes and one of the people that I am most impressed by, most inspired by. And so I just really want to say thank you.
Well, Linda, thank you for that. I wasn't expecting that, and I'm very touched and needed that on this rainy day.
Yeah.
It's been something I've certainly come to appreciate more and more over the years, is this power of partnership and collaboration with peers, with other leaders, with those that have a shared vision and values, and the unique power that brings to our lives and to our communities. So thank you, Linda, for all that you do and for being our guest today on the podcast.
I am super excited. Kristy, thanks for having me. And for everyone that's listening, thank you for all the women that are connecting, that are lifting each other up, that are encouraging each other. And if I personally can do anything to further your journey and enhance your leadership blueprint, do not hesitate to give me a ring. I would be honored and pleased to connect with you. And you can find me at Linda Fisk on LinkedIn. So thank you, Kristy. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks so much for listening to Ellevate. If you like what you hear, help a girl out. Subscribe to the Ellevate podcast on iTunes, give us 5 stars, and share your review. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at EllevateNTWK, that's Ellevate Network. and become a member. You can learn all about membership and all the great things that Ellevate Network is doing at our website, www.ellevatenetwork.com. That's ELLEVATE network.com. And special thanks to our producer, Catherine Heller. She rocks. And to our voiceover artist, Rachel Griesinger. Thanks so much, and join us next week.